his instant response was, "It just all depends on the weather. If there's even a slight call for rain on such a day, they'll just push it off." Which, like you said, may be the best thing to do anyway. Mm-hmm. Right.
Please rain.
Any other questions?
And then be dry in July.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Peter.
Thank you.
All right, moving on the agenda, item 5, this is personnel superintendent recommendations, and I will turn it over to Mrs. Ronan.
Thank you, Madam President. 5.01 is the AFSCME 3136 and 3136A master agreement. You know, we were in negotiations for about 2 months with both AFSCME unions. We have settled with both of them. It went very well. Both sides agreed to some minor language changes, and I think I had sent you a copy of what those were, and a 3% COLA. Now, the tentative agreement attached to your agenda shows the yellow language changes if anyone wants to see it. But since the unions have both ratified, next week we'll attach the final one. They'll all be in black, but I thought you might want to see the language changes. So let's see. Then under 5.02, we have, when we talk about our administrative and exempt employees, these are, for instance, like Kelly and Terry, who are no longer in AFSCME. If we don't run this through, those individuals never get a raise. So they're outside of AFSCME, but nevertheless, we give them the same cost of living as we give our AFSCME employees. Otherwise, sure, they're trapped without a pay raise. Then 5.03 is resignations. I'd like to thank our employees who are leaving us for your many years of service while you were in our district. 5.04 employment. We have a new student aide, so welcome to Linda Blunk. We will be hiring 2 teachers during our special meeting tonight because we are trying to replace the individuals who have left us. Summer school, it looks like some elementary summer school folks we're still hiring. Christina's shaking her head over there. And then typically we do offer some extended days during the summer to our school psychologists and counselors and several other individuals. Then Avenue Success, they are hiring for their big summer blast. And let's see, changes in status. Oh, wait a minute. Under 5. Oh, it's still the same. Okay. Under changes in status, we have a number of current employees who are moving to other positions. And very last on number 3, we are giving some pupil activity contracts for a football volunteer and our strength and conditioning summer and fall individual. So at this point, that concludes my report. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Ronan. Continuing on to item 6, this is our Education Committee, and I will turn it over to Mrs. Rarica.
Thank you, Madam President. First, we have our list of 115 senior graduates that we need to approve. Congratulations, everybody. Graduation is definitely one of our favorite things to do. And then next, we have the Student Athlete Parent Handbook. I don't know, we're there. Does anybody want to discuss it? I don't see anything I need to discuss, but if anybody else does.
And Chuck is online in case there were any questions.
Yeah.
Hey, Chuck, were there any changes to the handbook this year, or is it the same?
A couple slight additions to the handbook, and one of them was for the drug and alcohol policy, because unfortunately,
Page
this
8.
past school year, we've seen a increase in vaping incidents. We discussed it in our student athlete meetings with our student athletes. We also discussed it in our student athlete parent meetings as well. So we have about 6 meetings a year, meetings quarterly, and it seems like the message is not getting home. So I did want to add that little bit of information. I believe it was 20% of games could be lost if a student athlete is caught on their first offense. Now we've increased that from 20 to 30%. That was pretty much it. That was the only, I guess, major change. The second time that a student athlete caught with drug paraphernalia or caught baby, it'd still be 50%. And then the third time, I believe it would be the rest of the season. And then the next time after that, it would be, 1 year from when you're caught. And then the last time after that,
Thank you.
Thank you for thinking about that and trying to keep our kids drug-free. That's good. Our last thing is we do have a student field trip. Our football players are going to Camp Higher Ground in West Harrison, Indiana.
It's a neat campground.
It's what?
It's a neat campground. Up in Detroit.
I looked it up because I was like, I don't know this place, so I looked it up.
Yeah. Okay. Item 7 on the agenda, this is our policy committee, and I will turn it over to Vice President Taylor. Do we not have any? We don't have any. I was like, as soon as I said that, we didn't.
Although, Mr. Taylor, I did want to mention, the governor has a new cell phone policy, which we've asked OSBA, the model policy's out. So we've called our contact at OSBA and asked them, would you send us the appropriate version that we could approve? So we might have it before next Thursday. If it would please the board, we could send it to you, and then you could, since it takes two readings, it might be nice to start it in June. But I think, Christina, you talked to the lawyer in Columbus, and she's hopeful that later this week. Okay.
Yeah, I would prefer to do it so that way we have both readings in June and
In
July.
June and July,
Yep.
that's our
Before
hope.
school starts.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, good to know. Item 8 on the agenda, this is building and grounds, so I will turn it over to Ms. Ballard.
Thank you, Madam President. We have 2 requests in for usage. First is for Christ Temple Baptist Church to use the Williams Avenue parking lot for some extra parking on June 22nd and 29th. And the second request is for the Norwood Recreation, Norwood Middle School Gym and View Gym for youth volleyball, August through October. Weekdays 6 to 8 for practices and weekend games to be determined. And that is all I have.
All right. Item 9 on the agenda, this is Finance Committee, so I will turn it over to Treasurer Mrs. Camphouse.
Thank you, Madam President. The CFO report, financial reports, and change order listings are attached for your review. We have 1 month left in our financial year and are working to close up fiscal year 24 and start up fiscal year 25. 9.02, the appropriation resolution. That's our final budget for the current year. 9.03, temporary appropriations, our next year's budget, which will be temporary until October. 9.04, the certificate of estimated resources, it's our current year's estimated revenues. I will have this available for approval next week for you. 9.05, transfers and advances. Since ESSER has absorbed some of our general fund expenses for the last couple of years, I've been able to transfer funds for capital improvement. This will be the last year for large transfers as ESSER is spent and expired as of June 30th. 9.06, property liability vehicle insurance renewal. I may not be able to have quotes for your review until July, so I may have to take this off the agenda for next week. We're attempting to lower our insurance premiums by considering a self-insured option through a Hamilton County Purchasing Consortium. Once I have all the bids, I will bring them to you, but it may be in July. 9.07, Hamilton County ESC, our annual service contract with our high-quality ESC. 9.08, special education agreements for the 24-25 school year. 9.09, an agreement with Perceptions Counseling. And they will serve students for crisis intervention, facilitate connections to mental health services, facilitate life skills groups, and provide therapy to address social, emotional, and behavior concerns. 9.10, fiscal year 25 grants. These are federal grants. By next week, I should have the grant funding amounts for next year's review, for your review and approval. 9.11, Klingers Group to provide engineering services in order to develop a plan and scope of work for Williams and Views beautification projects. And finally, 9.12, payment in lieu of transportation. This is our annual payment for students attending private schools in grades K through 8. It is mandated that we provide payment as the distance to transport is not practical. And that is everything for finance.
Thank you, Mrs. Camphouse. All right, item 10 on the agenda, this is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The time is 6:16 and we are adjourned.